Chapter 2. The Lady of the Phoenix. Illarna rode hard with her arm raised aloft in a futile attempt to shield herself from the sun's golden rays. The silver in her eyes shone radiantly in the harsh light of a star reaching its zenith, its brilliance setting alight the crimson of her hair as it flourished to the motion of the horse galloping beneath. Her porcelain skin gleamed as a sudden yet soft gust of wind danced across her forearms, caressing the fine hair along her skin, sending a surprisingly pleasant sensation down her arms. A dire summons by her father, the High Lord of the Kingdom of Valentia, Ilandros Valancourt, ever present in the back of her mind. Apparently there were some pressing matters that needed to be dealt with, though with such blatant disregard for protocol, she could not help but be curious. There had been a number of signs these past 9 years, and everything was lining up just like they had in the legends foretold. Yet she couldn't bring herself to believe it. The legend itself had been drilled into her head damn near every day since she could remember. Yet somehow she always figured it was just a story. The fact that it was called the Return of the Taldrin did not help the situation, but recent events couldn't be ignored. In the past year alone, there had been 7 storms that lasted exactly 9 hours each. Stranger still, between each storm was a period of 27 days of completely perfect weather. Not a very odd occurrence for the golden groves of Valentor, but the pattern had been found everywhere. For some reason, each city and town had reported the storm happening at different times, but the pattern would always follow. Why 27 days? Why has there been 3 storms each season? By the light, what does it all mean? She wondered, wishing she could see the overall pattern in the mystery. Yet at the end of it all, Illarna could only allow herself to see the duty she was sworn to. I have been training for this for the better part of my life. If the Tal'Doran has indeed been reborn, I will be ready, no matter what. Illarna said, if only to reassure herself from the doubt. For her whole life, people had treated her differently than her brothers and sister. At first she thought it was the fact that she was the youngest, but once her father had another, she realised for some reason she was special, and on her 9th birthday she found out. Being the 9th child meant that she was to be shipped off to a remote part of the kingdom to be trained in the arts of war under the banner of the Phoenix. There she was allowed to find herself. No longer would she be told that her birth was cursed, and that she would be the ruin of her lineage. No, instead she was allowed to prove her strength and her worth, and that is exactly what she did. Quickly she rose far above what her age would imply she was capable of, all before she was 15 years old. Now, 9 years later, she led not a single unit, but the entire force of maidens. If anyone was going to confront and slay the Tal'Doran before he awakens, it would be her, and by her sword she would not fail. She pulled the reins swiftly back and pushed her feet into the mare's side, inciting the steed to greater speed, and down the path they galloped. The majestic beast and Illarna fell in step as one, her cape catching the wind as it sliced through the air, casting a heroic figure for anyone lucky enough to catch her. The 9-foot-tall gilded doors to the hall swung open with a creaking boom. Herald enough, Illarna moved with haste to present herself to the High Lord. Stepping into the great hall, Illarna always found it hard to hold her gaze from the large, imposing stone warriors that ran down both sides of the long hall, each of them clad in meticulously crafted armour, burnished black from head to toe, silver and gold pauldrons crafted into the form of wings bearing the symbology of the ruling house of the Valentor kingdom. A deep crimson cape wrapped itself around the cuff of the cuirass, itself bearing a red enamelled golden eagle embellished into a silver sun with rays radiating outward at its centre. Considering it was already evening by the time Illarna finally arrived at the keep, she wondered why her father had not retired for the night. "Father," Illarna called out as she burst into the final room. But to her surprise, he was in deep conversation with several cloaked figures hidden from view by his guards. Receiving no answer, she moved closer, but as she did their conversation became clear, and instantly she realised that her initial thought had been correct. This is about the Taldrin, she thought, moving closer as her father's guards stepped aside to allow her passage. Standing adamant, Illarna tried to force a reaction from her father, but as he turned, she noticed that he was wearing a particularly fine coat made of velvet and silk, a choice she found quite peculiar. It's not like he normally walks around in drab garments or anything, quite the contrary. No, this is something else, something different. A sudden wave of nausea hit her. She just wanted to be told what was going on, yet she knew better to expect anything of the sort from her father. What the hell do these priests have to do with anything? She wondered. just as a number of the priests turned around, changing her nausea to hatred. Before she could speak, the foremost court herald began to announce her presence, calling out the long list of her achievements. Eyes rolling, Illarna flung her head backwards in such a dramatic fashion that she soon felt the whiplash. The Lady of the Phoenix Illarna Liraine Valancourt, the herald continued title by title. Knowing all too well how long this would take, Illarna fell back, crossing her arms in an expression of her growing agitation, the exercise growing ever more painful with each and every title spoken. Feeling the anger rising, Illarna turned, eyes burning. Shaken, the announcer sputtered the last of her titles in a shamble of words, wishing only to fall back into obscurity and away from her baleful gaze. A feeling many had shared over the years, for she could hardly handle psychopaths and fools without reveling in their discomfort and humiliation. A sentiment compounded when dealing with those who regarded themselves higher than everyone else, yet, in the end, it was nothing more than an entertaining game for which she had grown tired. Announcements finally concluded. Illarna once again tried to speak, but this time she was beaten to it by her father.
We have guests, and I would not have you making them even more uncomfortable than you already have,
he stated, locking eyes with his daughter in an effort to allow himself a moment's thought.
Illarna, I am proud of you, but I don't need this right now.
Impressed by her uncharacteristic silence, the High Lord smiled, turning to the first of the robed figures. Curious, Illarna followed his gaze, yet as her sights fell upon the face of the robed man, she froze, recognizing him immediately. Catching the glint of gold, her eyes shifted to the hideously garish yet all too familiar golden chain upon the man's neck as it dangled atop his heavy wool cloak, depicting an oversized serpent eating its own tail. Immediately realizing her father's intentions, Illarna's mood went from bad to worse. Are you serious? No, no way. I have already told you there is no way in hell that I am taking these. Illarna paused, trying to find the right word. Vermin.
Illarna, calm down,
her father said, raising his hand to quiet her tongue.
I know you don't like the Brothers of Nadrid, but they have their own reasons to accompany you, and they will accompany you, Illarna, for that is my will. Besides, you should be pleased. They have vowed to assist you in your duty to deal with the Tal'Doran.
Struggling to contain her rage, Illarna crossed her arms. You mean they pressured you into letting them join my quest? Enraged and fumbling over her own words, Illarna tried to point out the myriad of reasons why the priest should not be allowed to join her, but her father needed only shake his head once, and she knew the discussion was over.
Illarna, this is non-negotiable and that's final,
said, as cold as the winter's rain.
As exemplified by your mastery of the sword, you have discipline, yet you still can't control your emotions. This is no way for the Lady of the Phoenix to behave.
Taking a moment's pause, the High Lord wondered whether she would listen.
Retire for the evening, for by the morning's dawn you must leave.
Infuriated, she resigned herself to the fact that there was no changing his mind and so reluctantly bowed, withdrawing herself from the chamber. So, Illarna, I must ask, what will you do if we find this Tal'Doran, and he happens to be a most handsome man? A tall, raven-haired woman with jade eyes asked, her presence exuding a clear mischief streak. The woman remained ever poised, ready to jump into action at a moment's notice. Recognizing the voice, Illarna smiled. While we may be the best of friends, Sylvain, my duty remains. I'll do what must be done. Turning back to her horse, Illarna smiled, remembering all the mischief they had found themselves in over the years. Placing the last of her belongings on the saddle, Illarna turned to Sylvain, a mischievous smile gleaming across her face. Well, if the man is truly handsome, I might be given pause. Oh, I don't know about that, Illarna. Remember the time when... Sylvain stopped as Illarna's hand flashed past her face. Shh! Oh, by the light. What are you doing? Illarna exclaimed, arms thrown in the air. Sylvain's outburst of laughter caught everyone's attention, causing all in the vicinity to look over at the commotion on display. Sylvain lowered her voice in an effort to calm herself as she repeated a part of what Illarna had said previously. But your duty remains, remember. Illarna smirked, pulling tight the last buckle. This is different. I have been training my entire life for this battle. By the light, Sylvain, lives are at stake here. I cannot afford to be distracted by such trivialities. Might I also add, the incident you are referring to was a long time ago and no one got hurt. Except for Zachary and maybe your father's pride, Sylvain corrected, raising her eyebrows. Bursting into laughter, they both lost themselves to their emotions as they recalled the incident. Moments later, Anatole Massiere, the leader of the Brothers of Nadrid, approached.
Should we not get moving, my lady, or are you too happy to continue carrying on like a pair of starlings? We have at least a 4-day ride ahead of us before we reach the city of Oslan, and at least 2 months to get to the border of Ald'athaeia.
Sylvain saw Illarna's stance change for the worst, her anger radiating outwards for all to see. Noticing her hand shifting to her side, Sylvain realised that Illarna had already moved into a defensive posture. Training taking control of her body, Sylvain turned to face Anatole, and in a single graceful motion she drew her eagle-crested sword forward, the tip grazing the heavy gold chain wrapped around the man's neck. "Hold your tongue, serpent. You speak to the Lady of the Phoenix." Placing her hand on Sylvain's shoulder, Illarna whispered calmly, "It's okay, I got this." Sylvain swiftly softened her stance as she withdrew her sword, placing it back into its sheath. Again locking her eyes with Anatole's, Illarna fought back against the raging anger that at every moment threatened to break free. Exerting great restraint, Illarna forced herself to once again suppress her emotions, hoping to keep at least a semblance of poise. Nevertheless, the anger still burned on her lips. "Think hard and remember the words I speak, Anatole. 100 paces, I will not warn you again." Illarna watched as Anatole fell away, her rage searing till the moment the man fell from sight. Relieved and eager to get on the way, Illarna mounted her horse and signalled the advance.